Hello, IK here. Welcome to React AI e-commerce full course from beginner to advanced. Lesson 23. Reducer. A reducer is a pure function with two inputs, state and action, and one output, new state. Here is a diagram where we see Redux, store, state, departments, reducer, and here is only on this diagram is only reducer. Input state action and the output is new state. That a new state again is go in input like copy. It is immutable way of mutation. That with copy would be uh, in in some interaction with action not original. Action. An action is an object that contains action type and action payload. Example of action type. It is this pending, fulfilled, rejected. Example of action payload, departments. It is like properties, and the value of that properties is department one, department two, etc. in array. It is one array. The action type defines what the reducer should do with the action payload. Reducer definition. The reducer for the department state is defined in department slice.js. Defined and declared or declared. Constant department slice, here it is, equal create slice, etc. You see down. Reducer usage in the store. This reducer is imported into store.js. Here is that script of importing. Again, in department slice, it is name is department slice.reducer. Reducer is method, but that method reducer here is named departments reducer. We can name it how we want, but it's departments reducer say about it, and it is understandable to us in the future. Then it is added to the store's root reducer using RTKey Redux Toolkit configure store together with all other feature reducers. Here is all others. Here is departments and all other here. Departments, this is properties of the store reducer. From a view of point, the component departments list, state.departments. This is component C it, that C store, like C state of store, state.departments. This is a reducer, right side, departments reducer. This is the reducer named here in a store as departments reducer, even though in department slice it is a department slice.reducer. Here is some block diagram of Redux store state, and in that store state we have a all reducer. Or instead of store state, we can say a store reducer. This is object is function, function is object. It is value, result, what function return, and reducer, every reducer return state, new state. State of what? That state, it is global state in here in reducer, but that state is connected to subscribers by a user selector. And the user selector is a listener of that state. And user selector define local variable. It is value of local variable. And immediately when reducer state changes local state by a user selector. And the component re-render it. It is user selector important for component re-rendering because user selector listen global state, reducer state, and give it that new value give to local state, and changes local state is only one reason for re-rendering component. All reducer are registered when the configure store function is called. The configure store function is then used in index.js, where it is passed as the store prop to the React provider component. I correct my text and it is correct strictly. I always said strict correct strictly to ChatGPT. And ChatGPT, 99%, I am satisfied. But sometimes I control after that, but sometimes passed below my radar some text, and that part of text is very, very complicated. So this sentence I corrected after. Reducer are registered when the configure store. Reducer are registered when the configure store function is called. I didn't. And the configure store function is then used in index. It is where it is configure store is not used is used only and only in store. In store, constant store. We call constant store reference. Here it is provider, and the store props equal store object. And that store object is here. Store object. Store object. Here it is. Constant store. It is in store.js. Constant store. You see, constant store. Declaration of store. And the value is function configure store. Object store is and the return of that function configure store is object store. What is a return? Return is one store reducer, and all other reducer like props of that store reducer. But that store reducer somewhere in the code we call state also. This store, but don't pass configure store. Configure store is always here and depend of store. Object store can be called only. Okay, I didn't. I say you about that because all my course here is some idea that that you see how I work with Chat GPT and other LLM, but the most Chat GPT. And you never coding again. Maybe you never coding in your life, but now you are happy that you never code again because coding is very boring. It is interesting during learning and during some problems, but when you're routinaire, you can repeat and repeat a lot of code, and now coding is less than before. But never mind, and that less you will not code coding. You must guide artificial intelligence and artificial coding it. Back to end. Okay. This makes the Redux store available to the entire React application. After the store is created, all reducer states are initialized with their initial value. You can see this initial value in Redux DevTools. Press F12 to open the browser DevTools. And here is all initial value. From this point on, the user interface updates based on the actions that are dispatched. Actions trigger reducers. Reducer update the state, and React re-renders the user interface with the new state. It's all for this video. Thank you for watching.